Alright, when I go to impulse, raise the forward shields and transfer auxiliary power to the phasers.
We're dropping out of warp?
If we have to fight, I'd rather do it at impulse. At least we'd have an edge in maneuverability.
You're Ferengi, why don't you try making a deal or something?
Well, that's just racist, Jake. Shall I get my Jewish girlfriend to do taxes for you since we're looking at only stereotypes? What's up, lore masters? Today we'll be analyzing DS9's Valiant. It's an interesting look at Starfleet operations as well as how Starfleet exceptionalism negatively impacts the youth of the Federation. Let's just get into it. When the episode first begins, Nog and Jake are about to take an important message from Starbase 257 to Ferenginar. There are a few things here. First off, it's inferred that the missive is specifically a proposal for Ferenginar to join the Federation alliance. We have very little reason not to believe this, so for now, we'll go with it. We're also given reason to believe that Nog is personally delivering it due to him being the only Ferengi in Starfleet, a symbolic measure. Alright. Why are they only being sent in a runabout? We know that an entire squadron, or more, of Dominion ships will assault Starbase 257, and that they are on the edge of the Federation-Dominion border. Also, this vessel that they're in is woefully ill-prepared to take on that many Dominion vessels. You could argue, based on Nog's and Jake's reaction, that they weren't prepared for an attack of this magnitude, but why not? You're on the border, and you know that the Dominion can hit you where you least expect it. Just ask Beta Z if you have any questions. Sending an extremely important missive on a single runabout seems folly and, unfortunately, well within the modus operandi of Starfleet. If I'm giving as much leeway as I can, maybe you could argue that they don't send communications because it could be intercepted, and they are deploying a runabout to try to keep it low-key. However, I still think that's extremely flawed, as we find out during the attack. Irregardless, the Shenandoah is sent out with Nog and Jake and, surprise surprise, there's an assault on Starbase 257. Of course, a starbase with critical missives that likely does have admirals on it doesn't have any other ships to defend it. That we're aware of, at least. Again, if I'm trying to give them as much as I can, the Dominion is jamming sensors and communications, so it's possible that there is a ship there protecting it, just the Shenandoah can't get a hold of them. More on that later. But with no hope of help and not able to turn around because then they'd be going with the Jem'Hadar, Nog and Jake flee into Dominion territory. Let's discuss for a minute. Honestly, I think that this entire setup is the weakest part of the episode. I understand that they are at warp, but still, there's no way the runabout got that far, relatively at least, into Dominion space. Jake says that they'll eventually hit Cardassia, but I think that's unrealistic and a civilian overreacting. The ship could not have gotten that deep, if for nothing else that the closer they got to military installations, the more forces they would encounter. Which busts a hole in the entire plot because, again, the Valiant is supposed to be deep into Cardassian territory, which just can't be true. But anyway. The runabout is, of course, caught, and all seems lost until the USS Valiant arrives to save the day. The cadets of the vessel are able to get the two to safety as well as defeat the Jem'Hadar ships. From here, we find something interesting. That is to say, we find the USS Valiant, a Defiant-class vessel that was out on a 3-month training cruise. This ship had the best of the best cadets, and unfortunately they were caught behind enemy lines. First, this is a tie-in which is kind of cool to Paradise Lost. After being able to successfully shut down Earth's power grid, Red Squad is moved off-planet and given a mission so that Sisko can't use them to expose Leighton's treachery. But secondly, it's an interesting look at, well, Starfleet ego and exceptionalism. As Nog tells us, these are the best of the best. I've pointed that out already. They were given special everything. In the land of plenty, on Paradise, they were given more. These cadets were constantly told that they were the top that Starfleet had to offer, and ultimately given charge of the most advanced warship that Starfleet had at the time. This would obviously cause damage to someone from an ego and mental standpoint. The cadets would have an inflated sense of who they were and what they were actually capable of. Were they extremely gifted and skilled Starfleet officers? Probably. It's quite possible that they were the best that Starfleet had to offer. Certainly the evidence of the episode suggests that, even with the catastrophic failure they have at the end. But being told from birth that they are evolved humans, and then being told at the Academy that they were better than all the other evolved humans, probably cost them their lives. Honestly, I think that these cadets show everything that is wrong with Starfleet and the ego it instilled in its officers. Certainly, this is the worst case scenario of what Starfleet did, but it does show the overall feel, especially before the Dominion War. However, egotism alone wasn't what killed them as well. Their situation is bizarre. They were on a ship that found itself behind enemy lines, and all of the commissioned officers were killed. Before he died, the captain would give the cadet a filled commission and they would be told to get themselves home. But while being behind enemy lines, they would still be given a mission. The USS Valiant was to serve two different roles for Starfleet. First, they were to disrupt the Dominion when they could, and secondly, they were to attempt to gain information on the new Dominion battleship. One thing I do question about the later mission, though, it seems to show Starfleet intelligence is either idiots or excessively inefficient. We see this battleship, the one they're talking about, in Sacrifice of Angels. They've known about that vessel for months, if not longer, and still have no information on it? Okay. Now, again, to be fair, we know that the Valiant has been running without any contact to Starfleet Command, so perhaps they were given this mission before the battle or shortly after Sacrifice of Angels, and the fact that the new captain hasn't reached back out is why they think there has been no information garnered on the battleship. Either way, Nog would assist in fixing the warp drive, completely being pulled into the cult of personality that is the captain. Of course, Jake isn't fooled. He isn't fooled because, I don't know, he's not an idiot. Well, not that type of idiot. He is one, so just stay tuned, we'll talk about that. But when it comes to this idiocy, he's not an idiot. You feel me? As I've alluded to, we see the breakdown of the crew with cadets crying when they think of home and a drugged up captain who doesn't like emotion. I guess Michael Burnham does have descendants in Starfleet after all, so that's kind of a cool tie-in there. Ultimately, with the fixes Nog implements, the Valiant is able to catch up to the battleship and get all of the information they needed, so they can now go home. But, of course, the captain believes that they should be the ones to destroy it. His plan isn't thought through, for a few reasons. First, this Dominion battleship is larger than a Galaxy-class starship and 3 times as powerful. I mean, the thing actually has armor, it's something to be scared of. Also, there is no impending threat from it. At least not that we're told about. Sure, this thing can cause harm, but as far as we know, it doesn't have a specific mission. If it was about to destroy a colony or attack a base that couldn't defend itself, maybe it would be worth trying to destroy it, but right now, attacking it with just one ship is pointless. Also, the captain states that if they don't do it, another ship with another crew will have to. Fucking what are you talking about? I give Starfleet a lot of guff, but I am pretty sure they wouldn't be sending only one ship. They would probably have a task force. Even if the plan was to knock out the vessel's superstructure with a close attack, they aren't going to send one vessel after another and not coordinate. This isn't Overwatch. While I don't agree with the captain, and I think that the crew are just so tired and so egotistical that they don't realize how bad of a plan it is, Jake's counter is so stupid. If you know my daddy, he is like great and stuff, guys. He is so super awesome, and as his son, I know what he would do as a military officer, so just shut up and listen to me, okay? Oh my god, Jake, if you could just sit down, buddy. Don't get me wrong, Jake's saying they shouldn't do it because it's a dumb idea or that he thinks his dad wouldn't do it is fine. But for the journalist to sit there and say it as fact, as if he has all the information, and just because it's his dad, he knows exactly what the man would do, is, it's a bad character trait. But engage the battleship they will, and I won't be going into the combat all that much. I only want to point out one thing in the episode. We see something that we generally never do, and that's the use of systems to block targeting along with the countermeasures to stop them. Effectively, ECM versus ECCM. It's a real shame that the writers only remember that this exists when it comes to a plot. It would have been interesting to see this in wider use at the Sacrifice of Angels, especially when we consider starfighters and how they are always getting the absolute living hell beat out of them. I don't have a ton to add here except that it's nice to see, but it's completely inconsistent with the rest of the fighting. As we can plainly observe, the plan fails. They miscalculate in some way and the Valiant is destroyed. At the end, we see two sides of what had just occurred. Nog stating that it was a good crew that had a bad captain, and the other woman saying that the captain was a great man and the crew failed him. Unfortunately, I think they're both wrong. This was a mission that no one should have attempted. The crew failed the captain as much as the captain failed the crew. These weren't seasoned Starfleet officers, and so they couldn't identify bad decisions when they saw them. This also wasn't something that was sent from admirals or was endorsed by Starfleet Command. This was a rogue captain. There's no reason that a mutiny shouldn't have occurred. Honestly, the entire episode is just a tale of blunders, and it cost the lives of most every cadet. Starfleet had not been realistic in the way that it trained its officers, nor did humans have a spirit that would cause them to take a step back. And because of this, they lost one of the most advanced ships of the fleet and some of the brightest cadets that the Federation had to offer. But all of these are my opinions. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.